Hello, dear polymer clay enthusiasts. I'm Michaela from learnpolymerclay.com, and as always, I'm happy to provide you with fresh inspiration for your work with polymer clay. Today's project is inspired by broken china jewelry pieces, and we are going to achieve a faux broken china effect using napkins. I've used a floral napkin and a sort of decoupage technique. I've also used a gold embossing powder and a heat gun to create a golden design that would enhance the faux china look on the pieces. But if you don't have embossing powder and a heat gun, or if you're not very comfortable to use them that you would use for card making, that's okay. You can still achieve a similar look by using silkscreens or stencils and gold metallic acrylic paint. I have used a very simple bead stitch to make a chain to attach the beads together, and also to make the chain that would go around the neck. Of course, maybe you're not very used to making beaded chains, but even though this would mean shooting myself in the foot and complicating a little bit the project, I still think that this might be inspiring for you, and this could open new possibilities for you to make such beaded chains to attach your beautiful polymer clay pieces. But if you don't want to go for this way of attaching the bead, you can use eye screw pins and jump rings to put the pieces together. So it's up to you. I hope you like this project. I hope you will find this tutorial inspiring, and I hope you'll take this inspiration and use it in your work with polymer clay. These are the materials and the tools that I use to achieve the faux broken china look. And here is the complete material list with all the materials and tools. You can hit pause and take a look at this list. So I'm working with Cernit, white Cernit 100% opacity polymer clay. I've conditioned the clay previously, and then I passed it through the thickest setting of my Imperia pasta machine, and then I folded it in half because I wanted to work with a double layer. Sometimes it's hard to work with white polymer clay, so I'm doing my best to keep it white. I'm using baby wipes to wipe out any colors, any dust or inclusions of any kind. And it's very important to keep your white clay white, because there are going to be some white areas that are going to be visible in the final bead to get the faux broken china piece look. Also, in order to achieve the look of a broken china piece, I'm using an angular cutter, and I'm also using a round cutter to make a hole in the middle of the bead. I'm using the acrylic roller to smooth out the edges, and this is very important because they are going to be visible in the final piece. And if you don't like sanding too much after baking your pieces, you should be very careful and do a very good job before putting your pieces into the oven. I'm rolling the acrylic roller on top of the bead as well to have a very nice flat surface to work with. So I'm taking the time to make nice smooth edges. and then I'm flattening again the bead, the front of the bead. I've tried to make a pattern, a texture on the side of the bead, but this pattern was not really visible in the final piece, so you can totally skip this step. I'm using the handle of the craft knife to enlarge the hole in the center of the bead. And I'm doing my best to create a very nice shape for this focal bead. Then I apply Fimo liquid, and I think I applied a little bit too much. You should work with smaller quantities. It's better to do it. And then I would use a floral napkin to have a Faux China design, and I would remove the inside white layer of the napkin, like I would do for any decoupage project. And then I will use my fingers to tear off the part of the design that I want to use to embellish my bead. As you can see, I'm cutting a part which has the border of the napkin inside, so I don't have to use scissors to cut a nice straight line. But for other beads, I used scissors to cut a straight line like this, and as you can see, I'm leaving a white area that is not covered with napkin, and I think this adds, this enhances the Faux China look of the beads. I'm trying not to cover the edges, because when I tried this idea on my first piece, I didn't like the look of the piece with napkins on the sides, and I thought I would have to sand this off for a better look. So in order to avoid the extra work, I prefer not to cover the edges. And in fact, in a broken china piece, you would have white edges. I'm doing my best to trim off the napkin around the round hole from the middle of the bead. And when I'm happy with the look of the napkin sitting on my focal piece, I can take the bottle of Fimo liquid and pour some Fimo liquid on top of the bead. And as a piece of advice, I think it's better to put less Fimo liquid. Less is better than too much, because if you put too much, you will have liquids, and then you'll have to, after baking, you'll have to cut them off using scissors. This is not the end of the world, but this would be extra work, so if you want to avoid this, think of using smaller quantities of Fimo liquid. I think I poured too much. I'm using a baby wipe to clean the edges and to remove the extra Fimo liquid or any Fimo liquid leaking on the sides. So then I baked the pieces for 30 minutes because I'm working with Cernit at the temperature recommended by the polymer clay manufacturer. I think it's okay to bake them for 30 minutes even if you are working with a different brand of polymer clay. And then I used scissors to trim off the baked liquid clay from the sides of the bead because I had leakages, and also I'm using the craft knife to remove the baked Fimo liquid from the hole, from the middle of the bead. And then you'll have to check your piece and see if there are areas that you might want to sand a little bit to have a very nice finishing on the bead. So I'm using a nail polishing machine, which is ideal, but only for short repairs, not for extended sanding. And then I would flip the piece and I would apply Fimo liquid on the back of the bead, and I will redo the same steps to decorate the back of the bead with the same technique. So again, I'm choosing the design that I want to use. I'm using scissors. I'm using the scissors to cut a straight line. That is going to be part of the design. And again, I'm leaving an area without covering it with a napkin to enhance, as I said, the Faux China look. Again, I'm poking out the napkin sitting on the top of the hole, and this time I'm using scissors to trim off the excess napkin, and this is even easier than using your fingers to tear off the excess napkin. And then I will use again Fimo liquid, and I would pour some Fimo liquid on top of the bead. Keep in mind that it's better to add less Fimo liquid. Keep in mind that less is more. And when I finished coating the piece with a Fimo liquid, I will put it again in the oven for a second baking at the same temperature, but this time I will leave the pieces for only 20 minutes. I decided to make a beaded chain to put the pieces together to make a beautiful necklace. and I used a very simple stitch technique that I will explain at the end of the video. But before putting the pieces together, there is another step to do, and this is embossing the beads with embossing powder and the heat gun. So I used a pink ink pad and a stamp, and I impressed a pattern on the bead, and then I put the gold embossing powder on top. I'm using my fingers to remove the excess embossing powder, and for delicate areas I'm going to use a brush. So I'm removing the excess embossing powder, and I'm recreating a beautiful design. Then I would lift off the page, and I would put the remaining of the embossing powder in its small box. I'm using the heat gun to emboss the powder, and this is a technique that you will encounter very often in card making, but I thought to myself that taking into consideration that both polymer clay and Fimo liquid can stand the heat of the heater, and I'm sure you know, and you have maybe already tried projects involving the heat gun and polymer clay. So I thought this technique would be perfectly safe for polymer clay, and this would be another great possibility to create a pattern, an embossed pattern on top of your polymer clay pieces. If you don't like the glass-like effect of the triple thick glossy glaze, you can leave the pieces just like that. They have a matte finish, and they are perfectly okay. But I wanted to have a faux ceramic look, a faux china look. So for this I'm using a very thin coat of triple thick glossy glaze on the front of the bead and on the sides as well. And I thought this would add to the faux china look that I wanted to render in this project. So then I let the triple thick glossy glaze dry. In case you decide to make only one bead, it's very easy to put it on a chain and wear it like that. So I took a chain, I put it through the hole in the middle of the bead, I lifted the loop up, and then I passed the remainder of the chain through that loop, and now your piece, your pendant is ready for wearing, is ready to wear. But I wanted to make a necklace using 5 focal beads, so I decided to make, as I said earlier, a chain with a very simple bead stitch. And in fact I've made 2 chains with 2 sizes of beads, smaller beads to attach the 5 beads together, and larger beads to make the chain that would sit around the neck. So I'm putting the chain, the beaded chain, through the bead, and then I will take one side of the beaded chain out, and then I would play with this idea, one side going down and the other going up, and you'll have the pieces well attached. To make sure that the pieces won't move around too much, I'm stitching the two beaded ends together, and then I would make knots in the back, and I would trim off the excess thread. This is not the most the cleverest idea to attach such bead chains, but it surely is the easiest one. So if you are interested in the way that I've made this simple stitch to make these chains, you will find at the end of the video a simple explanation and even an image showing you the steps of the process. Making the beaded chains took a little bit of time, but I really wanted to make them. I really liked the way they would fit this project, and they would go perfectly with these floral romantic beads. And then I used again fire line to connect the pieces together. I will sew in the jump rings. I will pass through the beads again. I'm making a rotary motion all around the beads, going down and up and through the jump ring. And then I will make knots on the sides to make sure that the jump ring is well secured, and that the thread won't come, or the beads won't come off. And then, as I said, I'm making knots using the thread on the side, and then I will trim off the excess thread. It might look a little bit complicated, but in fact it's not complicated, and I really like this kind of beaded chains, and once you're used to making them, you will have new ways of putting together your polymer clay pieces. So I thought that this would be interesting. On the other side, I will do the same thing. I will sew in the jump ring, and then I will attach a lobster clasp and a jump ring that I will attach to the smaller beaded chain. Again, I'm making so I'm closing the jump ring, and then I will pass the thread through the jump ring. I'm going down through the beads, I'm going to the right, I'm going up, I'm going through the jump ring again. So I'll do this several times to make sure that I'm having a strong connection, and this will will hold the weight of the beads, even though, as you know, polymer clay pieces are rather light. I want to make sure that my design is resistant and professional. Again, I'm making knots on the sides, and then I will trim off the excess thread. It's not a very good idea to use your polymer clay blade to trim off the file line, but I had to use what I had near, so. And as I said, I'm attaching a lobster clasp, and then I will attach this jump ring to the other beaded chain. And thus you will have a closure which is on the sides and which is not very visible. You have to look very closely to notice this small and delicate lobster clasp. So now you have the necklace and all the pieces put together, and it kind of looks like that. And I hope you will use this inspiration in your work with polymer clay, especially that you have so many possibilities and so many great designs when using napkins in a sort of decoupage technique. And this is the simple bead stitch that I told you about. So I'm starting out with 2 beads. I pass the threads through the 2 beads. I pass through them again, and then I put the beads facing with the hole up, with the holes up, and then I will just string 2 beads, go down on the right, and then so I would string the 2 beads, I will go again through the beads, and then I would add 2 beads, go into the bead on the left, and then go to the right and up, and 2 beads and left, around, right. You should try it, because it might look complicated. It might seem complicated, but in fact it's not so complicated when you get used to this very simple bead stitch. Thank you for watching my tutorial. I hope you found it inspiring. I hope you'll take this inspiration and use it in your work with polymer clay. And stay tuned for more inspiration for your work with polymer clay.